Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following my hair growth story, I am almost to man bun levels. Very, very close, but I'm not gonna unveil it yet. Hopefully soon. And if you're brand new to the channel, y'all welcome. Make sure and subscribe. My name's Easton and I'm a flight attendant for a major US airline. I'm also a flight attendant instructor for that airline. And there are many incredible things about being a flight attendant. But like every coin, there's always two sides, and there's some things that just aren't great about being a flight attendant. Pros and cons, if you will. And you may be watching this video because you're like, hey, I just wanna know, is being a flight attendant worth it? Well, I'm here to help you make that decision. Or maybe you're just watching this video because you're like, hey, I love the guy's content. And if that's the case, awesome. Thank you so much. Give me a little thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. I really appreciate it. So is the flight attendant job worth it? Well, let's start with the pros and then we'll go to the cons. And I'll give you 3 pros, 3 cons. The first pro, and yes, this one is the biggest one, so let's get it out of the way, the free travel. Arguably the greatest perk that airlines offer. And free travel is just as easy and incredible as it sounds when there are seats on the plane. But here's why I put it in the pros section, because yes, there are some times when you're not gonna make the flight, there aren't enough seats on the plane, and so you gotta keep waiting in the airport for the next flight, and the next flight, and the next flight.
And the next day, 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 and the next.
The reason I put it in the pros section is because the majority of the time you're gonna make the flight and you're gonna get to your destination. Ask any flight attendant, the places they've been will amaze you. And for this video, I wrote down a couple of places I've been to because of the flight attendant job. It's like Ireland, London, Italy, Costa Rica, all 50 states, Iceland, Paris, China, Aruba, and so many more. These are just some that off the top of my head. And this isn't to brag, this is just saying as a flight attendant, this is your job, to travel. It is to go different places. So the travel is real. And if there's free travel, that means that there's also paid travel. Number 2, huge pro, is paid travel. Let's say you want to go to Australia. Well, you also want a guaranteed seat on the plane, and you want a hotel paid for while you're there, and you want to be paid for every hour you're on the flight and per diem while you're over in Australia. Well, you can get that. You have that option as a flight attendant. It's called working the flight, doing your job. Because one of the most common questions we get as flight attendants is, well, does the airline pay for your hotel? Yes, they do. And if they didn't, it would be an awful job. I can't imagine going somewhere for work and then work being like, all right, now good luck getting a hotel. I would be broke. But I know so many flight attendants that when they want to go somewhere and they don't want to standby travel or travel for free, then they'll pick up a trip to that destination, and that means they're getting paid to go, and they get a free hotel. And typically with international destinations, they're getting 24 to 48 hours over there before they have to work the trip back. I also know so many flight attendants that will get their wine and cheese from Paris, and then their chocolate from Brussels or Switzerland. And this is not to sound bougie, it's not to say, oh, look at us, we get all our stuff from all around the world. It's just the job. It just is, because you're there anyway, so you pick up your groceries, or the items that you want. You go to explore, you go to have a little adventure. It just so happens that to get there, you just do your job. So as a flight attendant, a huge pro is you have that option. You can travel for free and go to that destination you've wanted to go to for so long on your own dime, or you can pick up a trip to that destination and get paid to go there. The only thing it costs you when you go is to work there and work back. Which brings me to number 3. As far as work goes, the job itself is super easy. Now, I'm not talking about passenger challenges. I'm not talking about schedule interruptions. I'm talking about the job you perform day to day. I'm talking about arming and disarming doors. I'm talking about ensuring compliance and safety among your passengers, providing customer service. That's the job you're doing every day. Now, while that sounds simple and easy, it is. Flight attendants do not like hearing that, oh, so you're like a waiter in the sky. All you do is pour Cokes. I'm a flight attendant. I hate that line too, but here's the deal. It's true. All right, if you're just doing your normal job day to day, that is what you're doing. You're giving great customer service and you're taking care of people. But I've got to also tell you, there is an extremely real job that lurks underneath that surface level customer service. And that job is the real reason that flight attendants are even required on the plane by the FAA. Flight attendants are primarily there in case there is any type of an emergency. As a flight attendant, that's when our real job activates. But that's extremely rare in relation to how many flights you're gonna do as a flight attendant. As a matter of fact, most flight attendants will go through 40 years of service and never experience a significant emergency or an emergency at all. So that's why I say on the surface level, all the things you do day to day, the kind of more boring things, It's just super easy. Now, those are the pros. Let's talk about 3 cons. The job itself can be very monotonous. It's typically the same thing every single flight. Every flight seems to be telling someone to put their bag underneath the seat in front of you, and then they ask why, and they almost seem to challenge your authority. It's someone asking, what do you have to drink? And so you list out every single option, and then they say, no, I'll just do water. It's experiencing a delay and a passenger asking, hey, would you mind calling my connecting flight and having them hold the plane for me? It's the same questions and struggles day after day after day. Now, a quick note on this. In the airline industry, boring is actually good because the only alternative to boring is an emergency. You don't want that. And then also significant delays that are totally affecting the operation, which means you don't get home in time. It means your passengers miss their connecting flights. They don't get home in time. It means your duty day is longer. Everything just begins to crumble. So boring is something you learn to be cool with, but it is boring nonetheless. Number 2, attendance is extremely strict. In most jobs, you get a certain amount of sick days and a certain amount of personal time. If you call out sick last minute in most jobs, it is what it is, right? The operation of that job might kind of flinch a little bit, but then they keep going. No big deal. Well, as a flight attendant, there are very strict rules to when you can call out. That's because if I'm a flight attendant and I call out 30 minutes before I'm supposed to sign in at the airport, well, that flight cannot take off unless it finds another flight attendant to replace me. The FAA has very clear rules on this. There must be 1 flight attendant per 50 seats on an airplane, occupied or unoccupied. That means if a flight attendant calls out last minute on a layover where that is not a base for that airline, meaning there are not flight attendants just waiting around the airport, that means if a flight attendant calls out last minute, that plane that requires 4 flight attendants cannot take off with just 3. So the airline needs to bring in a flight attendant from another base or another airport, fly them in, then that plane can take off, but they have to wait till that flight attendant gets there. So you can imagine the significant delays that this would cause. And because of the chaos this would cause, airlines have extremely strict call-out policies. And lastly, number 3, I've actually mentioned this in another video. Check it out, the struggles of being a flight attendant. It's a lonely job. It just is. You deal with people day after day, typically 1,000 people a day. It could actually be more. Yet with all those interactions, it's still one of the loneliest jobs. It's ironic how in a crowd of people you feel most alone. Now, please note there are ways to make it better, but without the forethought on how to mitigate the loneliness and how to deal with it, it's extremely isolating. Quick reasons if you haven't seen the video or if you're just not going to watch it, either one. I'll lay it out for you. All conversations are pretty surface level with everyone you come in contact with. You work with a new crew all of the time, typically never really seeing them again unless, it's in passing. You might get 1 or 2 trips with them in the future. You go to a lonely hotel room with just your thoughts and maybe the TV on in the background so you don't have to sit in silence. You're self-managed, meaning that the only time management seems to check in on you is when you've done something wrong, so you don't get a lot of positivity from that. And this would weigh on anyone. Again, it's possible to manage this, but it requires being aware of the fact that the job can be lonely, and it's just not talked about enough. So I'll make another video addressing this later, because we got to talk about it more. And those are the cons. To sum it up, 3 pros: travel for free, get paid to travel, and the job you do day to day, it's extremely easy. The cons: the job can get monotonous, attendance is wildly strict, and the job can be extremely lonely. If you're considering being a flight attendant, I hope this video helped. But first, let me give you my overall opinion. The job itself is great. It has afforded me incredible experiences and incredible travel and an incredible life. Mainline pays really well for the work you're required to do. But no job is perfect, so I'm not gonna sit here and just say, oh, it's incredible, it's the best thing ever, and that's it. No, if you're going into it, let me set the record straight with the cons, because this job is not just glam. Everything that glitters is not gold. And that's all for today, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it insightful. Hope it helped out in some way, shape, or form. Make sure and subscribe. Also give it a big old thumbs up. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and right now we're on track. Also trying to post twice a week, and I am meeting that goal, y'all. Celebrate the wins. And in the link in the description below, you can shop my Amazon storefront. Also connect with me on the socials. Message me, y'all. Comment in the comment section. Let me know what you want to see. And I will see y'all next time. God be with you.